There is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot fix. You have felt it. Not in your body, though your body carries it too, but somewhere deeper. In the place behind your eyes where thoughts breed other thoughts. In the quiet moments that are never truly quiet. In the space between one distraction and the next, where for just a fraction of a second, you catch a glimpse of how exhausted you actually are. And then something pings, something flashes, something demands, and you return, obediently, automatically, to the noise. This is not a failure of willpower. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens to a human mind that has been slowly, methodically trained to fear its own silence. Think about the last time you sat in a room with nothing, no screen, no sound, no task, just you and the present moment. For most people, that memory is distant, vague, almost uncomfortable to recall, because somewhere along the way, stillness began to feel like a problem to be solved rather than a sanctuary to be entered. You were not born this way. There was a version of you, younger, quieter, more whole, who could sit beneath a tree and simply exist, who could watch light move across a wall and feel something close to peace, who did not need to be productive every moment to feel worthy of rest. That version of you has not disappeared. It has only been buried beneath notifications and obligations, beneath other people's opinions and your own relentless self-commentary, beneath the accumulated weight of a world that profits from your distraction and crumbles when you become still. This audiobook is not a list of tips. It is not a 5-step productivity system. It is not a self-help formula dressed in philosophical language. What this is an invitation to slow down far enough to remember who you were before the noise took over, to examine with honesty and without judgment the invisible forces that keep your mind in a state of perpetual agitation, and to discover, not through willpower or discipline alone, but through understanding that the stillness you are searching for has never left you. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, ruler of millions, wrote his most enduring words, not in proclamations or decrees, but in a private journal never intended for public eyes. In those pages, he returned again and again to a single practice, the practice of going inward, of quieting the external world long enough to hear the deeper wisdom beneath it. He called it the inner citadel, the fortress of the mind that no external force could breach unless you opened the gate yourself. This audiobook is your guide back to that fortress. Find a position of comfort. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. And for the next hour, allow yourself the radical act of simply listening. The noise will wait. It always does. But for now, you are here. And here is exactly where the healing begins. Chapter 1. Stop letting the world live in your head. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius' army announced its arrival. There was no declaration of war, no moment where you consciously agreed to hand over the keys to your own inner world. It happened gradually, the way all profound losses happen, quietly, incrementally, disguised as convenience and connection and progress. The fortress of your mind, the sacred interior space that philosophers and monks and artists throughout history have devoted entire lifetimes to protecting, was not stormed. It was invited in, one notification at a time, one anxious scroll at a time, one sleepless night of circular thinking at a time, and now, here you are, a person of genuine depth and intelligence, trapped in a mind that feels less like a sanctuary and more like a city in the grip of a never-ending emergency broadcast. Ask yourself this honestly. When was the last time you had a thought that was entirely your own? Not a reaction to something you read, not a response to something someone said, not an echo of an opinion you absorbed from a screen. A thought that arose from the deep, still waters of your own consciousness, original, unhurried, and entirely yours. For many people, that question produces a long and uncomfortable silence. The Stoics understood something that modern neuroscience is only beginning to confirm. The mind, left unguarded, does not default to peace. It defaults to noise, to rumination, to the recycling of old fears and borrowed anxieties. The ancient Greek philosophers called this state akrasia, a kind of weakness of will, a surrender of the higher mind to the lower impulses of reaction and distraction. But the Stoics did not stop at diagnosis. They prescribed a remedy. Marcus Aurelius, who governed the most powerful empire in the ancient world from a place of extraordinary psychological pressure, wars on multiple fronts, personal tragedy, political betrayal, developed what historians and philosophers now call the practice of the inner citadel, the deliberate, daily cultivation of an interior space that remains sovereign, calm, and unbreached regardless of the chaos surrounding it. He wrote in his Meditations, and remember, he wrote this to himself, not to impress anyone. He wrote, confine yourself to the present. 3 words. And yet within those 3 words lives an entire philosophy of mental liberation. Because here is what the siege of the modern mind actually consists of. It is not primarily the present moment that torments you. The present moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this exact second, is almost always manageable. What torments you is the past you keep replaying and the future you keep catastrophizing. The siege is temporal. It is fought on the battlefields of yesterday and tomorrow, while the actual territory of your life, the present, sits largely unoccupied and unappreciated. Think of the last time you were genuinely overwhelmed, not physically threatened, not in immediate danger, but overwhelmed in the way that modern people are overwhelmed. The racing thoughts at 2 a.m, the low-grade dread that sits in the chest like a stone, the sense that there is too much, too many demands, too many opinions, too many versions of yourself you are expected to perform simultaneously. Where was that overwhelm actually located? Not in the present, in the projection, in the simulation your mind was running, a simulation of possible futures, probable disasters, imagined humiliations, anticipated failures. Your nervous system responding to thoughts as though they were physical threats, flooding your body with the same stress hormones that your ancestors reserved for encounters with predators. Your mind was under siege, but the army was made entirely of your own imagination. This is not a criticism. This is a recognition. The human brain is, by evolutionary design, a threat detection machine. It scans, it anticipates, it prepares for the worst, because for hundreds of thousands of years, the humans who prepared for the worst were the ones who survived. The capacity for worry, for rumination, for anxious, forward thinking, these were once survival advantages. But you do not live on a savanna. You live in a world where the threats are largely psychological, social, and abstract, and your ancient brain has not yet received the update. The Stoics, 2,000 years before modern neuroscience, understood this mismatch intuitively. Epictetus, who began his life as a literal slave and ended it as one of the most revered philosophers of the ancient world, taught his students to make one foundational distinction before responding to anything. He called it the dichotomy of control. Some things are within your power, your thoughts, your responses, your values, your attention, the direction of your will. Some things are not within your power, other people's opinions, external events, the past, the unpredictable movements of the world. The siege of your mind, Epictetus argued, is sustained almost entirely by your refusal to accept this distinction. Every moment you spend in anguish over something outside your control is a moment the fortress wall crumbles a little further. Every moment you return your attention gently, deliberately, to what is within your power, you lay another stone. So the question is not how to silence the world. The world will not be silenced. The notifications will keep coming. The opinions will keep multiplying. The demands will not pause to ask whether you are ready. The question is this: who is guarding the gate? Because the fortress of your mind has always had a gate, and that gate has always had a guardian. The question is only whether that guardian is you, conscious, deliberate, rooted in your own values, or whether you have, without realizing it, handed the keys to whoever shouted loudest. Beginning today, the guardianship returns to you, not through force, not through the exhausting performance of toxic positivity or manufactured motivation, but through the quiet, unshakable practice of coming home to yourself, again and again. As many times as it takes, the fortress is still standing. It always was. Chapter 2. The 1 second. That changes everything between stimulus and response. There is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. You have been taught your entire life that speed is intelligence, that the quick reply demonstrates confidence, that the immediate comeback proves wit, that the person who responds fastest in the argument, in the meeting, in the comment section, in the moment of confrontation, is the person who wins. This is one of the most quietly destructive lies of the modern world. Watch what happens in any room when tension rises. Watch the people who immediately fill the silence with words, loud, defensive, reactive words that pour out before the thinking has even begun. They feel urgent, in the moment they feel powerful, and then, hours later, they lie awake replaying what they said, wishing they had said something different, something truer, something more measured and more worthy of who they actually are. And then watch the rare person who does not fill the silence, who sits with the discomfort of the pause, who lets the provocative statement land, observes it, processes it, and then, if they choose to respond at all, responds with a precision and a calm that cuts through the noise like a blade through still water. That person is not slow. That person is not passive. That person is not disengaged. That person has mastered the most demanding discipline in the entire field of human psychology, the discipline of not reacting. Epictetus taught this with a clarity that still feels radical today. He wrote, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things, not the insult itself, but your decision to receive it as an insult. Not the traffic, the delay, the dismissal, the criticism, but the story your mind immediately, automatically, almost involuntarily begins to construct around it. The trigger is external, the suffering is internal, and between those 2 points, between what happens and how you respond to what happens, there exists a space, a gap, a moment of pure potential where you are neither victim nor aggressor, neither wounded nor wounding. In that space, you are free. The untrained mind never finds that space. It collapses the gap entirely, fusing stimulus and response into a single automatic movement. Someone criticizes you, and within milliseconds your heart rate rises, your defensive thoughts mobilize. Your words begin forming before your wisdom has even been consulted. You react. And then you live with the consequences of your reaction, which are almost always more costly than whatever triggered it. Modern neuroscience calls this the amygdala hijack. The emotional brain overrides the rational brain before the rational brain has had a chance to weigh in. The ancient Stoics called it enslavement to the passions. The language is different. The phenomenon is identical. And here is the part that requires your complete, honest attention. This is not about becoming cold. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending that things do not affect you. The Stoic ideal was never emotional numbness. Marcus Aurelius grieved, Seneca raged, Epictetus suffered. They were fully, profoundly human. What distinguished them was not the absence of feeling, but the refusal to be governed by feeling without conscious choice. There is a profound difference between feeling anger and being anger, between feeling fear and becoming fear, between feeling the pull of reaction and surrendering entirely to that pull. Seneca, who wrote with a warmth and psychological intimacy that still feels startlingly modern 2,000 years later, described this practice in his letters. He wrote about the art of the pause, of inserting a deliberate breath, a moment of withdrawal between the provocation and the response, not to suppress, not to perform calm, but to ensure that when you do speak, when you do act, it is you speaking and acting, not your fear, not your ego, not the wounded, reactive part of yourself that always speaks too fast and too loud. He wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Retire into yourself as much as you can." What a strange and beautiful instruction. Retire into yourself, not retreat from the world in defeat, but withdraw inward, deliberately, purposefully, to consult the wiser, quieter part of yourself before engaging with whatever demands your attention. Practice this now, even as you listen. Think of something that has been disturbing your peace. Something someone said, something that happened, something you are anticipating with dread. Let it surface. Let it be present. Do not push it away. Now ask yourself, not with judgment, but wit. Chapter 3. Why urgent is usually a lie. Everything is foreign to us. Time alone is ours. Seneca. Nothing is more loudly demanded of you than your attention, not your money, not your labor, not even your loyalty. Your attention, the living, breathing currency of your inner life, is the most aggressively harvested resource in human history. Entire industries, entire economies, entire architectures of technology have been designed, refined, and optimized around one singular goal: to ensure that you never truly stop. The red notification badge that pulses on your screen was not designed by accident. The autoplay feature that begins the next video before you have decided whether you wanted one was not designed by accident. The infinite scroll that removes every natural stopping point from your experience of consuming content, not an accident. These are the outputs of some of the most sophisticated behavioral psychology ever applied to human beings, designed to exploit the same neural reward systems that once drove you toward food and safety, now redirected toward engagement, reaction, and the endless consumption of stimulation. And the result? A civilization of people who are exhausted but cannot rest, overstimulated but cannot stop seeking more stimulation, starving for depth but consuming only surfaces. Seneca saw the seeds of this 2,000 years ago. He wrote about surrounding yourself with people who make you better, and about the mutual nature of growth between teacher and student. But in the same breath, he warned against the opposite, against throwing yourself open indiscriminately to every voice, every crowd, every clamoring demand on your mental bandwidth. Withdraw into yourself, he urged, not permanently, not in bitterness or isolation, but with a daily, intentional act of selectivity, of asking before you open, before you click, before you engage, is this worthy of the one resource I can never replenish? Because here is what Seneca understood about time that most modern people are only dimly beginning to sense. You can earn more money. You can rebuild lost relationships. You can recover from failure and begin again from almost any depth of defeat. But the hour you spent scrolling through other people's highlights, the hour you gave to an argument that meant nothing, the hour you surrendered to the manufactured urgency of someone else's agenda, that hour is gone, permanently, irrevocably, added to the ledger of the life you did not fully live because you were too busy managing the noise of a life you were barely present for. This is not guilt. This is an invitation to grieve briefly and then to choose differently. The concept of urgency is, for most people living in the modern world, almost entirely artificial. Think honestly about the last 10 things that felt urgent to you. The email you felt compelled to answer at 11 at night. The news cycle you felt obligated to track in real time. The social media post you felt you had to respond to immediately. The conversation you replayed obsessively because you felt you needed to resolve it now, tonight, before you could sleep. How many of those urgencies were real? How many of those situations would have been materially different if you had waited until morning, or until you were calmer, or simply until you had decided they were worth your attention at all? Marcus Aurelius asked himself a question that every overstimulated modern person needs to adopt as a daily practice. He asked, "Is this essential? Not is this interesting? Not is this being discussed by everyone I know? Not is this something I feel guilty for ignoring? But is this essential? Does engaging with this bring me closer to the person I am working to become, or does it simply feed the noise?" Most things, examined honestly, are not essential. This is not cynicism. It is discernment. And discernment, the capacity to distinguish between what genuinely deserves your mental energy and what merely demands it, is one of the highest and most undervalued forms of intelligence available to human beings. The most productive people you will ever encounter are not the ones who respond to everything. They are the ones who have developed an almost ruthless clarity about what deserves a response and what does not. They have, in effect, unsubscribed from urgency as a default state. They have made peace with the discomfort of letting things wait, letting things go, letting the noise of the world carry on without their participation. And in the space that this unsubscribing creates, in the silence left behind when you stop feeding every demand, something remarkable begins to happen. You begin to hear yourself again. Not the reactive, defensive, anxious version of yourself that has learned to live inside constant stimulation, but the quieter, wiser, deeper version, the one who knows things, the one who, given half a chance at stillness, will tell you exactly what you need, what you value, and what you have been neglecting in the relentless service of everyone else's urgency. Here is a practice Seneca would recognize immediately. Before you reach for your phone tomorrow morning, before the first notification, the first headline, the first demand on your attention, take 5 minutes, just 5. Sit with your own thoughts. Let the mind do what it will. Observe without judgment, not meditation in any formal sense, simply the radical act of beginning your day as yourself rather than as a responder to the world's agenda. You may find it uncomfortable at first. The mind trained on stimulation resists emptiness the way a stomach trained on sugar resists plain water. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is beginning to heal. You are not obligated to be available to everyone always at the cost of being available to yourself. Never. Unsubscribe from urgency. What is truly yours will still be there when you return. Chapter 4. The Inner Citadel. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. There is a place inside you that has never been touched by any of it, not by the criticism that landed when you were most vulnerable. Not by the failure that seemed to define you for years, not by the relationship that ended badly, the opportunity that slipped away, the version of your life you planned so carefully and then watched dissolve into something unrecognizable. There is a place inside you that remained whole through all of it. The Stoics called it the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, the commanding center of the self that observes, evaluates, and ultimately decides what meaning to assign to every experience life delivers. Marcus Aurelius, who suffered more in his personal life than most people imagine, who lost children, was betrayed by close advisors, governed through plague and war and the slow erosion of an empire, returned to this concept again and again in his private writings. He called it the inner citadel, the place inside the self that is impregnable not because nothing can reach it, but because you have decided what you will allow to breach it. Think of a citadel in the ancient world, a fortress built not in the open plain where it is most vulnerable, but on the highest ground, elevated, surrounded by walls, accessible only through gates that are deliberately designed to be narrow and controlled. Everything that enters, enters by choice. Everything that stays, stays by permission. The citadel does not refuse all visitors. It simply insists on knowing who is asking to enter and why. Your mind can function exactly this way, but for most people it does not. Most people's minds are open cities. No walls, no gates, no guardianship at the entrance. Every thought that passes through, every anxious prediction, every remembered slight, every absorbed opinion, every catastrophic scenario walks straight in, sets up residence and begins to redecorate the interior according to its own preferences. And then you wonder why it feels so crowded in there. The practice of the inner citadel is not about building walls against life. It is about developing the conscious capacity to decide which thoughts you will entertain and which you will observe and release. It is the difference between a mind that thinks and a mind that is merely thought through. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called prosoche, a Greek term meaning self-attention or watchful attention to oneself, not self-absorption, not navel-gazing, but a quality of deliberate inner observation that allowed him to notice a thought arising before he became identified with it, to see the anxiety before it became his identity, to watch the anger before it became his behavior. This is the practice. And it is deceptively simple. You cannot stop thoughts from arising. The mind is a thought-producing organ in the same way the lungs are a breathing organ. The goal is not to stop the production. The goal is to stop the unconscious consumption. Every thought that arises in your mind is, at its first moment of appearing, simply a mental event, a weather pattern, a cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. It is not you. It is not the truth. It is not a command. It is simply a thought. The moment you forget this, the moment you mistake the thought for reality, you open the gate. You let the visitor in, you begin to believe the story, to inhabit the fear, to organize your behavior around a mental event that has no more inherent authority over you than a cloud has authority over the sky it passes through. Here is what this looks like in practice. A thought arises, I am not enough. I am falling behind. People are disappointed in me. I will never figure this out. The untrained mind receives this thought as news, as evidence, as a reliable report from a trustworthy narrator. It takes the thought and builds an entire architecture around it, gathering supporting evidence from memory, projecting confirming scenarios into the future, constructing a story of the self that is built entirely on a single uninvited mental event. The trained mind, the mind practicing the inner citadel, sees the thought and asks a different question. Is this true? Not, is it possible? Not, is it painful? Not, is it familiar? But is it demonstrably, presently, actually true? And then, is entertaining this thought serving me? Is allowing this thought to take residence in my inner citadel making me wiser, calmer, more capable, more aligned with my values? Or is it simply feeding the noise? Most of the thoughts that cause the most suffering, examined this way, fail both questions. They are not demonstrably true. They are projections, interpretations, inherited narratives, catastrophic simulations dressed as certainties, and they are not serving you. They are consuming you. The inner citadel does not require perfection. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote in the pages of his Meditations about his own failures of temper, his own recurring anxieties, his own moments of forgetting the philosophy he was simultaneously developing. The practice is not a destination, it is a direction. Every time you notice a thought without immediately becoming it, that is one stone laid in the fortress wall. Every time you ask, is this worthy of my attention, rather than automatically surrendering your attention, that is another stone. Every time you choose the stillness instead of the noise, even for one breath, even for one moment, the citadel grows stronger, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the interior of your mind begins to change. It becomes quieter. Not because the world has become quieter, not because your circumstances have become easier, but because you have stopped treating every passing thought as an emergency. You have stopped giving every uninvited mental visitor the power to rearrange your furniture. Your mind is a place. It has always been a place. And you, not your fears, not your past, not the clamoring world outside, you are the one who decides what that place looks like. Begin building. Chapter 5. Returning to yourself. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Marcus Aurelius, you have been on a very long journey, not the journey you planned, not the one you would have chosen had someone offered you the map in advance, but the journey you were given, full of detours and losses and moments where the road disappeared entirely, and you had to find your way forward through what felt like pure darkness. And through all of it, through every chapter of that long and complicated story, there has been one constant, one thing that has traveled every mile of that journey with you, one presence that has witnessed every version of yourself you have ever been. Your own awareness, not your thoughts. Those have changed 1,000 times. not your opinions or your identities or your roles or your relationships. All of those have shifted and reformed and sometimes dissolved entirely, but the quiet witnessing presence that has been present for all of it, the part of you that watches, the part of you that knows, the part of you that, even in your most lost and most noisy and most overwhelmed moments, has never entirely disappeared. That is who you are returning to. The Stoic philosophers were, at their core, philosophers of return. Return to reason, return to virtue, return to the present moment, return to the self that exists beneath the noise of personality and circumstance and the accumulated weight of other people's definitions of who you should be. Epictetus, born into slavery, denied every external freedom that human beings typically rely on for their sense of self, discovered something in that enforced stripping away that most people spend a lifetime seeking voluntarily. He discovered that the self, properly understood, cannot be taken, cannot be owned, cannot be colonized or silenced or destroyed by anything that originates outside of you. His master once threatened to break his leg. Epictetus, calm and unmoved, said, "You will break it." And when the leg was broken, he said, simply, "Did I not tell you it would break?" Not with bitterness, not with defiance, with the unshakable equanimity of a man who had located his identity somewhere that no external force could reach. This is not a story about suffering stoically, about enduring pain with a clenched jaw and a performer's stoic mask. This is a story about radical interior freedom, about the discovery that when you return to the deepest version of yourself, when you locate your identity not in circumstances but in consciousness itself, you become, in the truest sense, unbreakable. Not unfeeling, not invulnerable to loss or grief or pain, but unbreakable, because there is nothing left to break. Returning to yourself does not require a dramatic transformation. It does not require a retreat to the mountains or a sudden epiphany or the complete resolution of every problem currently demanding your attention. It requires something far smaller and far more available. It requires a moment of honesty, a willingness to ask, perhaps for the first time in a long time, what do I actually think? Not what I have been told to think, not what is currently popular to think, not what will win me approval or avoid me conflict, but what do I actually, in the deep and private interior of my being, believe to be true? When was the last time you asked yourself that question and waited long enough to hear an honest answer? Most people are so accustomed to performing their identity, performing confidence, performing certainty, performing the version of themselves that their particular social world most rewards, that they have genuinely lost touch with the unperformed self underneath. The self that has preferences not shaped by anyone else's approval, the self that knows what it actually finds beautiful, meaningful, restful, alive. The self that, given silence and permission, will tell you things about yourself that no personality test, no therapist, no mentor, and no algorithm can tell you, because only you have access to it. Returning to yourself begins with silence, not the absence of sound necessarily, though that helps, but the silence of inner performance, the cessation of the constant internal monologue that evaluates and judges and compares and plans and worries and performs, the willingness to simply be, without agenda, without output, without justification. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Read that again, slowly. Nowhere. Not in the most beautiful landscape, not in the most luxurious silence, not in the company of the most loving people. Nowhere can you find a quieter retreat than in your own soul. Because the soul, the deepest interior of your own awareness, is not subject to weather or noise or circumstance. It is the still point around which all the noise revolves. And when you return to it, when you drop below the surface chatter of the conditioned mind and arrive at that place of deep inner stillness, you do not find emptiness. You find yourself wiser than you remembered, quieter than you allowed, more certain of what matters than all the noise combined ever made you feel. This is what you have been searching for in every distraction, in every achievement, in every relationship, in every experience you hoped might finally make you feel like enough. You were not looking for more. You were looking for less noise, less performance, less of everything that is not you. And the extraordinary discovery waiting at the end of that search is this: what you find when you strip away everything that is not you, when you sit in honest, undefended stillness long enough, is not emptiness, is not inadequacy, is not the flawed, insufficient, not quite enough person that the noise has been telling you that you are. What you find is a consciousness that is fundamentally, irreducibly whole, not perfect, not finished, not beyond growth or learning or the beautiful ongoing work of becoming more fully yourself, but whole. Return to that wholeness as often as you can, in the morning before the world begins to ask things of you, in the quiet moment between one task and the next, in the breath you take before you speak, in the pause you allow before you react. Each return is a practice. Each practice is a deepening. Each deepening brings you closer to the version of yourself that does not require the noise to feel real. You were always here. Beneath it all, you were always here. And here, in this stillness, in this returning, is where you are most fully, most freely, most entirely yourself. The silence you have always deserved you have traveled far today. Not in miles, not in the external geography of a world that measures worth in distance covered and tasks completed and ground claimed from the noise. You have traveled inward, and inward is the longest, most demanding, most rewarding journey any human being can undertake. You came here carrying something. Perhaps you arrived without knowing exactly what it was, only that something felt too heavy, too loud, too relentless. Perhaps you knew precisely what was weighing on you and simply needed a place where that weight could be acknowledged without being solved, without being fixed or optimized or turned into a lesson before you had even finished feeling it. This was that place, and you stayed. You listened. You allowed the words to do what words, when they are the right words at the right moment, can quietly, almost invisibly do. The Stoics did not promise that the practice of inner mastery would make life simple. Marcus Aurelius did not promise this. Seneca did not promise this. Epictetus, who knew the weight of true suffering in a way most of us will never be called to know, certainly did not promise this. What they promised was something rarer and more valuable. They promised that within every human being, regardless of circumstance, regardless of history, regardless of what the world had taken or failed to give, there existed an interior resource, a quiet, deep, inexhaustible reservoir of wisdom and equanimity and genuine strength, not the brittle strength of someone who has simply never been broken, but the soft, enduring, ancient strength of someone who has been broken and chose, again and again, to return to themselves. That strength is in you. It has always been in you. You may not feel it fully yet. The no. Noise may still feel louder than the silence. The habits of reaction and urgency and distraction may still feel more powerful than the new practice of stillness you are beginning to cultivate. That is perfectly, entirely, beautifully all right. Every philosopher who ever wrote a word worth reading began exactly where you are, not at mastery, at the beginning, at the simple, humble, enormously courageous act of deciding to pay attention to the interior life. That decision, the one you made by pressing play today, is not a small thing. It is, in fact, everything. Come back to this whenever the noise becomes too much. Come back when the world feels too fast and your own mind feels too crowded, and you have forgotten temporarily that there is a place inside you where none of that can follow. We will be here, in the stillness, in the silence you have always deserved. Rest now.